Nothing but truth on AFR Talk.
Sure. Absolutely. You want to weigh in on what I'm putting down. If you're picking up what I'm throwing down, okay, I won't try that again. But if you're interested in weighing in on it, 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. Agree, disagree. Before the break, I was highlighting how Eric Holder wants to go after a law that disproportionately has been invoked and used as a defense successfully by the people that he was speaking to, in the sense of being in the NAACP convention in Orlando. And the bottom line is he's referring to the Stand Your Ground law. It's interesting. Race, not an issue in the case, but we talk all about it. And we talk about Stand Your Ground. Not an issue in the case, but we talk about it. Why do we do that? Well, it's about agendas. And the way to advance an agenda, part of it, is to characterize those that don't agree with you as cowards. And that would be cut number 4. Roll it.
One cannot truly understand America without understanding the historical experience of black people in this nation. Simply put, to get to the heart of this country, one must examine its racial soul. Though this nation has proudly thought of itself as an ethnic melting pot, in things racial, we have always been, and we, I believe, continue to be, in too many ways, essentially a nation of cowards. Though race-related issues continue to occupy a significant portion of our political discussion, and though there remain many unresolved racial issues in this nation, we, average Americans, simply do not talk enough with each other about things racial.
I'm talked out. I'm talked out about things racial, because if I'm coming to, we're going to have a conversation with somebody who is on the level with Al Sharpton, and we're going to have a conversation about race? Really? Really? We're going to have a conversation with, well, President Obama, who invokes himself into this case, and then, Carney says, he doesn't get involved in these things. We're going to have a conversation about race and gun violence when we ignore what the killing in Chicago? Really? What do you want to talk about race? What is it? Is it the proportion of people in jail who happen to be black? Well, I guess that would have to do with crime. Unless you're going the route of the vast right-wing conspiracy, the vast white man's conspiracy. But I think you're going to crime, and crime's interesting because of what we have in black and black crime. But quite frankly, I don't even like talking about that. You know why? Because we're all individuals. And I don't want to color code problems, because if out-of-wedlock birth is a problem in one community, it's a problem in all communities when we talk about America as Americans. But if you really were to represent those who want to represent people because of their race, and I think they're just plain silly. I don't think civil rights leaders are silly. Absolutely not. I think people who claim the agenda of civil rights while looking to advance agenda of the abandonment of the race-neutral policy, of the focus on race as opposed to the focus of being equal under law. I think a Justice Department that claims we're going to have a conversation about race and we're going to have a conversation about guns and we really just need to all get together and hug. Well, gee, I don't really want to hug you, Mr. Holder. Not after you abandon your race-neutral policy. And we can apply that to the Black Panther case. Really not standing up for my voting rights. This is what happens. They view those agreeing with Mr. Holder, civil rights violations and attacks and voting rights violations and attacks are voter ID. Voter ID is an attack. Think about that. Even though we see an increase in the amount of people who are if we're going to color code it, increase in voting, both in 08 and 10 and 12. After these, it's for verification. That's what they do. But they view those as an attack. I see somebody waving a baton outside a voting booth, dressed in fatigues, intimidating those that come in. Oh, and they're part of the Black Panthers. That would be intimidation. Okay, if I saw somebody in a white sheet who likes to burn small T's doing that nonsense, I would view it as voter intimidation. I would be just like you, whatever color you are, and reject it. And that's what we all do. That's what the majority of us do, the vast majority of us. You see, race is taking our outrage at something that truly is outrageous in the sense of when we see racism and exploiting it. And we got to wake up. Because if you're buying into the false narrative of what we have today and what we've seen in the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman trial, where they changed the language to white Hispanic, they advanced stories and edited them dishonestly, they lied to you, and then the prosecution's witnesses served to, in essence, prove that George Zimmerman was not guilty of the crime that he was charged with. And you want to jump into that fray and say, yeah, we got some real racial problems in our society. Yeah, we really don't like. I mean, it's really bad. Now, we can go to the Pew poll about black on white racism being more prevalent than what we see on white and black racism and that. But I contend that the vast majority of us don't give a rip about one's color. And so that's why I don't play the game, because it is a game. And those that are buying into it, if you vote for somebody because of the color of their skin, I think you're ridiculous. And I think you got issues. And I hope you talk to somebody about those. But nonetheless, I come back to the idea that they're trying to conjure up a crisis and a controversy, and they're trying to take away a law that has actually been used to help people defend themselves against criminals. Think about that. Think about how dishonest it is. And why do they have to keep going back to race? Because they've got nothing else. The left has nothing else. Are they going to go to their economic plan? It's been a beauty. Really working out. Let's go to the record. 7.6% unemployment, but we have 14.3% unemployment on the U6 of discouraged workers and workers that want to work more than part-time, but they're part-time right now. You have a health care plan that is putting people out of work. And what do you get from Jay Carney? Oh, there's no correlation between that. There's no causation because of that. I mean, because of the regulation. And that's why we didn't really put in the employer mandate. It was mainly just to get it right. And that's why, really, they don't have. How about that foreign policy of apologize for America's sins in the Arab and Muslim world? And in general, by the way, with our special obligation when it comes to nuclear weapons, atomic weapons. Think about that. Think about embracing Islamists. Think about the fact that what success does President Obama have? But it's not about him personally. It's about an agenda that has failed. So what do they go to? They go to the one thing where they try to hamstring people who disagree with them or challenge their point of view because they can smear them with that terrible charge of being a racist for merely pointing out things that are true and substantive. So when we talk about numbers of people who are going to end up on programs in the welfare state as we know it and expanding those and how we can't afford it, you're racist. When we talk about out-of-wedlock birth and daddy not being there and an elevation of a culture of promiscuity, well, If you talk about it in one context or another, well, you're racist. You must be. No, it's not racist. It's true. If you're really representing a community based on color, wouldn't you focus in on what's happened to the community, specifically the family? But I prefer you don't. I prefer you don't. You're not a racial leader, and you don't have a racial caucus. I prefer you go to what is truly ailing us all as Americans. And as long as we play the other pandering games and worry about being called racist, we're never going to solve the problem, and we're only going to aid and abet those who choose to advance their political agenda on the altar of American success. Sick, wrong in so many ways. David, Ohio, welcome. Great to be with you. You got about 2 minutes. David, go, brother.
Okay. I remember about 40 years ago I took a psych class or sociology class, and one of the things they talked about was Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
Self-preservation is at the top of the list. If you get a long list of people who've had their heads bashed in, I think just about every one of them, just like Zimmerman, would do whatever they had to do to stop the attempt to end their life. When you bash your head in, it is an attempt to end life. Farmers would teach your kids and relatives, when you hit an animal in the field or on the road, you hit them over their head to stop their suffering. Zimmerman did what he had to do to stay alive. Our crooked media are doing the devil's work. With that said, I'll say have a great night.
David, thank you. Appreciate it. And here's how I'll end that conversation. David, appreciate your point of view. If it would have been reversed, I would have felt the same way. Are you hearing me? Know the truth. They may have a megaphone and tell us how divided we are. But just because they're publicizing it and just because they say it over and over again does not make it true. You want to solve problems? Have a racial, I call it the racist charge clock. Just do a timer when you're talking about an issue like immigration. Talk about foreign policy, whatever it may be. And it could be applied to ethnicity as well as religion. And when they start throwing in that you're an Islamophobe because you tell the truth about Islam, or you are somehow a bigot because you don't support amnesty, and that's when you click it. Because they can't win it on the substance. They can't win it honestly. I'm saying that to you as an American. Not black, not white. As an American. You are an individual created by God. You are unique.